Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us today. I'm going to go ahead and give us about 30 more seconds to get everyone in before we start. Excellent. Well, hello, everyone, and welcome to today's webinar, Intro to SQL Fundamentals, presented by our fantastic New Horizons instructor for today, Sandy Stevenson. We are in Zoom for today's session, and we will be sharing a copy of this recording with you in an email after the webinar. We do encourage participation throughout the webinar, so please use that chat or the Q&A option for our short Q&A after the presentation. Educate 360 is so excited to present this webinar today, so without further ado, I'll hand it over to you, Sandy.
Thank you very much, Mary Ellen. Good afternoon or good morning, depending upon where you're at. I'm Sandy Stevenson, and welcome. This is just an intro to SQL Fundamentals. So it's kind of those beginning pieces. And I'm going to go through some slides here, but then I'm going to go out and show you some examples as well. So when we're working with data in the SQL Server, or really even out in Azure SQL database, we use the select statement to get data from our database. That's how we query or ask questions about the data. So with our select statement, there are required parts of it when you're selecting data, which would be the select clause, which is the columns I want to get, what columns I want brought back to me. And the from clause is what tables does that data live in, or what views, or am I using a derived table or a common table expression? Right now, let's just think about tables. So tables are where that data lives. That's where the data is stored, if you will. So that's what goes in your from clause. Those two pieces you need. Now, for example, maybe I'm going to select the order ID and a quantity and a unit price. Those are the columns I want returned to me from the sales order details table. The sales, that's the schema, if you will, that the table belongs to. A schema is like a namespace. It can be used for a layer of security as well. So we can give our users just default schemas that they can create items in, provided they have permission and such. Now, for filtering, the where clause is our row by row filter. So in this example, I want the order ID, the quantity, and unit price returned to me in my result set. I'm getting that out of the order details table. But I only want to see orders where the quantity was less than 100. So basically what I'm doing here, maybe I'm a small to medium paper products business, and I have a lot of small to medium customers, but I also have Walmart. So what I may be trying to do is look at, okay, well, we know Walmart buys a whole lot more than 100 pieces from us at a time. So in moving them aside, I'm saying, okay, now where's the rest of my business? So I want to see where that quantity sold. Individual quantities of a product are less than 100. So say for toilet paper, Walmart's buying thousands of quantities at a time, where our small to medium customers are maybe buying 50 cases at a time or something like that. And I'm going to group by order ID. Well, number one, I have to. In this example, notice I'm getting the order ID. I am adding up quantity. These are called aggregates. So I'm adding up quantity. I'm going to get an average price as well, again, out of the order details table, where the quantity is less than 100, but I have to group by order ID now. And the reason I have to do that is because these are aggregates. They're going to do summarizations and such. And here's the order ID hanging out here going, oh, what am I supposed to do? So I group by that. That is now going to give me groups of orders. That'll give me now groups of orders. So that row by row is now gone. Now I'm looking at grouped data. The having clause is a filter on groups. So once again, when I add into having, we typically do aggregates and a having clause. So here I'm taking quantity times unit price, where that's greater than 10,000. So of those groups, when I take those individual quantities times the unit price, where it's greater than 10,000, what that's going to show me, it's weeding Walmart out. Okay, it's weeding Walmart out. So now I have this subset of my small to medium customers. Of those groups of customers, who's buying the most from me? That allows me to see of those other customers who is buying the most when I'm analyzing my customer base and such. Well, I'm probably going to need my data sorted. So if I need my data sorted in a guaranteed sorted order, that's where I use the order by clause. The order by clause allows me to sort by default in ascending order. And here I'm sorting by order ID. So I want this all sorted by order ID. Maybe I'm going to sort it by the quantity times unit price as well. And I can alias all these columns, and I really should on these aggregates too, so they have a column header. I always want to know what data I'm bringing back, so I want it to have a column header as well. Now, this is just looking at data coming out of one table, but we oftentimes have many other tables we need to look at the same time. That's where we're querying on more than one table, and that's where the join clause comes in. That is how I bring my tables together based off of primary and foreign keys to ensure I am getting the correct data returned. In other words, the correct order for a given customer. If I'm not joining my tables, my results aren't going to be correct. Okay, I could be getting sales information for a customer that doesn't exist. In my background, a lot of my experience is in credit and collection. I went into client sites already and looked at their queries for a new customer. As a new customer of mine, I looked at their queries and I went, wait a minute, this output's way too big. And they weren't joining their tables correctly. And this was being reported on with TransUnion, Equifax, and so forth, credit reporting agencies. So someone who maybe moved and forgot about an $84 electric bill, well, all of a sudden there was a $5,000 loan default on the credit file that wasn't even theirs. That's part of how that happened, by tables not being joined correctly. So what you're seeing here, I have given aliases. So I'm actually aliasing the tables. And the reason for that is so I don't have to type out the whole table name. Why would I have to type out the whole table in the schema? Well, because oftentimes in our tables, let's say we have a customer table and an orders table. The customer ID is in the customer table, but it's also in the orders table. And we hope it's there a lot. We hope they're buying a lot. But oftentimes the column name itself is the same. And that's where we have to qualify it, because if we didn't, it would be an ambiguous reference. So we often alias our tables. So the order details table, I'm aliasing as OD. The orders table is being aliased as O. And then I put those in front of the columns as well, because now really the table is going to be known as O or OD for the purpose of the query. So I'm joining my tables. I'm still saying where that quantity is less than 100, grouping by the order ID. Again, looking at that sum of quantity times unit price greater than 10,000, and sorting by order ID. So this is going to allow me to capture the orders and the details of a specific order. So again, we use the select statement to query data. We use the select statement to query data, but there's one other thing I want to point out. Of course, the order by and the from both have extensions like join. Order by can have offset fetch. They have extensions to them. But what I want to point out that a lot of people really don't know is how this is actually executed. The first thing that's actually done is the from clause. Do these tables exist? Do I have permission to them? The where clause is done next, then the group by, then the having, and then finally the select statement, and then the order by. That's why if I'm using column aliases in the select, I can't use them anywhere in here until I get to the order by, because the database engine doesn't know about them yet. So let's go have a look out here. Let's go have a look. Excuse me. So I am in a virtual environment from a class that we teach on querying. And I'm going to be looking at the T-SQL database here. So what I want to do first, let's say that I want customer information. So I'm going to select, if I can type today, I'm going to select a customer ID. And I'm actually, wow, I cannot type today. I'm going to alias that as customer number. Okay. That's called a column alias. That's called a column alias. So that's going to give me that alias as an output. I'm also going to get a customer name. Okay. Now, when I look at my customer table here, and I expand columns, that customer name, I'm actually going to do a contact name here. I'm going to alias that as contact. Okay. And just keeping this small for right now. So I'm going to say from sales.customers. Now I need to make sure I'm in the right database because right now I'm in the master database. So I want to make sure that I'm going to the T-SQL database. I'm going to execute this and hopefully I have no more typos in it. So here I can see I have 91 customers. Okay, I've got 91 customers here. Now, maybe I want to see information not just for a specific customer. I could throw a where clause in here. But really what I want to do, I want to see my customers that have placed an order. So when I do this, and in fact, I'm just going to put a couple comments in here as I go along. Okay, so this is just a list of customers. And here, I will see customers that have placed an order. Now, I'm going to be joining the customer table and the orders table by the customer ID. The customer ID in the customers table is a primary key. That must be unique and must always have a value. It's never allowed to be null. The customer ID in the orders table is the foreign key that references the customer ID in the customers table. So now I'm going to alias my columns with the table alias as well. Okay, I'm going to do that also. So again, I'm going to select c.custID because I'm going to alias the customers table as C. Okay, and again, I'll call that customer number. C.contact name, I'll call that again contact. So now I want to get columns from the orders table. So I'm going to get order ID. And I notice this is red. That tells me I forgot to have a closing quote there. Okay. So I'm going to get order ID. And this is coming out of the orders table, which I'm going to alias that table as O. I also want to get an order date. Now, the date, the way it comes in, it's a date time structure, but there's no time it's been collected. So I'm going to trim off that time. So I'm going to do a cast function to do that. So I'll do a cast function on the order date. I'm going to make it a date data type for the purpose of the query. I'm going to get a column alias of order date. And now in my from clause, I'll say from sales.customers as C, that's the table alias I'm giving it. I'm going to do a join on sales.orders as O. And now I need to tell it what I'm joining on. So I am joining on those two customer IDs. So I'm joining on c.custID where it equals o.custID. And when I run this now, I'll select this and I'll run it. Now I am seeing my customers that have placed an order. If a customer didn't place an order, I'm not seeing them in my results set. If there's an order out there that's not attached to a customer, I'm not seeing them there either, because that would be, break rules of referential integrity. So this is just a normal default inner join. So I can see 830 rows here. There have been 830 orders that have been placed. There's been 830 orders placed. Now, I'm going to go ahead and build on top of this. And I'm going to sort this. I want to see my output sorted. So I'm going to do order by. And I'm going to sort this by the customer ID. I'm going to rerun it. So what we notice now, it's being ordered by customer number here, by the customer ID. So we can see all the different orders that a given customer placed. But maybe I want to go a little further with it so I can see the customer number, the contact, the order ID, and date. But you know what? What did they buy? Okay, what did they buy? What were the quantities and so forth and that they bought? So I'm just going to copy this. Okay. And I'm going to paste it. And now I'm going to add in information out of the order details table. That's the line item. So picture you go into a hardware store on Saturday and you go to buy some things. Now, your order is going to have, of course, your name. It's going to have the date of your order. But then it's going to list all the nuts and bolts and screws and 2x4s and plywood that you bought. Those are all your line items. That's what we find in order details. So I'm going to come over to side order date. I'm going to put a comma. I'm going to put a comma here. And I want to go ahead here. I'm going to alias the order details table as OD. So I'm going to get the quantity. I also want the unit price. I also want the unit price out of it. In fact, you know what? I'm going to get a total too. So I'm going to take the quantity times unit price. And I'm going to call that total sale. Yeah, I'll call that total sale. Now I have to bring the table in. I said what columns I want, but I need to bring the table in here too. So I'm going to come right down here. I'm going to do a join. Order details. I'm aliasing that table as OD. I need to say what I'm joining on. So again, I'm joining on the order ID between the orders table and the order details table. Okay. Once again, I'm just going to let that sorted by customer ID for just a moment. Okay, and let me fix my error. So if I have an error here, I'm good at doing typos. That's how you know it's real. Right here, right, unit price. Okay, and I'll run that again. So now again, I'm seeing the quantities and unit prices and a total sale from an order that each customer placed. Okay, so I'm seeing that from that order ID that each customer placed. I'm seeing the line item information that goes with that. I see the line item information going with it. Well, maybe I also, you know what, it's great to see the quantity and unit price, but gee, what was the product that was sold? So I'm going to come back up here and I'm going to go right beside the order date here. I'm going to come over. I'm going to bring the product table in. I want the product name. Okay. I want the product name. I'll just call that product. And I need to bring the table in too. Okay. So right under here, under order details, the product tables in the production schema. I'm joining on the product ID that's in the order details table, where it equals the product ID that's in the products table. And I forgot right here, I need to have my alias in because I'm using it, so I have to have it there. And there we go. So now I'm looking at my customers, what orders they placed, what the details of those orders were. Now I'm seeing what the details of those orders were. Now, I'm going to make some changes to this too, because I can see this is all great. It's all great information. But you know what? Maybe I want to see where the customer has purchased. Let's see here. I want to see what the max quantity is. This will tell me the max quantities that have been sold. So the highest quantity that was sold was 130. Okay. So what I'm going to do, let's assume that, you know, the Walmarts were over 100. Okay. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to throw a where clause in here. And I want to see where quantity, okay, is less than 100. Okay, so anything 100 and above that sold at least 100 individual pieces of a product, I'm not going to see it. Again, I'm weeding out that Walmart or whatever. So now I'm down to 2,132 rows. Now I'm down to 2,132 rows. So that weeded out Walmart and such. Now, I'm also going to make some changes here because right now, maybe I don't need some of this information for what I want to do, or maybe I do want to keep it, but I may not need to see, for example, maybe the order date or the order ID or the product. Okay, because I may want to do some grouping in here and do some summarizations, if you will. So I'm going to select, I'm going to go ahead and get the customer ID. Okay, just giving that a column alias again. I also want to see the sum of quantity. I want to see the sum of quantity. I'll call it total quantity. I'm also going to get an average unit price. Or better yet, I'm going to get a sum of quantity and unit price here. Okay. So I go customers table. I need to join. I need to get to the sales table to be able to get to the order details table. Or the orders table, pardon me. I'll specify what I'm joining on. And now I'm going to bring in the order details table. So again, I'm joining on the order ID between the order details table and the orders table. Well, now I want to throw my where clause back in. So again, I'm going to say where the quantity and is less than 100. I need to do grouping now because these are summarizations. These are summarizations here, but the customer ID is not, it's not an aggregate. So I'm required to group by that. I'm going to group by that. But now I'm going to sort again by customer ID. Okay, so now I'm going to be working here with grouped data. The row by row is gone. So now I'm looking at group data. Notice I'm now down to 89 rows. Okay, so now I have it grouped. So I've weeded out Walmart and such, those higher end customers. So now I can see my my group data. But for me to really see, who my higher buyers are, the rest of my business, I want to do a filter on groups. So here's what I'm going to say: having the sum of quantity times unit price greater than 10,000. Greater than 10,000. I'm still going to sort it by customer. In fact, instead of sorting it by customer ID, I'm going to sort it by total, because that was a column alias I gave that column. I'm going to do that in descending order. I'm going to sort by customer ID and ascending. So that's going to be kind of like a tiebreaker. And let me fix my mistake. Only need one in there. And there we go. Now I am seeing my 41 top buying customers after I've weeded out Walmart. Now I can see what that large base is for the rest of my business. Now I can see what that larger base is for the rest of my business. And there we go. There we go. So that went over all the different pieces there in the main select statement that I have wanted to talk about. So what I call Know and Grow, these are other querying classes that we offer. SQL Querying Fundamentals Part 1 is a one-day class. You'll notice the dates there of when that's running. SQL Querying Fundamentals Part 2 is a one-day class. You'll notice the dates there that that's running. And the 55366 As a 5-day class, you'll notice there the dates that that is running.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Sandy. This was a
Welcome.
lot of amazing info. And if any of our audience need any more info on this topic or these dates, please do not be afraid to visit us at newhorizons.com. And if you missed out on any part of this session, we will be sharing this recording with all of you in an email after the webinar. So thank you all so much for joining us today. And thank you, Sandy, for all your amazing info.
Thank you so much. Thank you, everyone. Thanks for letting me be part of your day.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. Oh, we had one quick question
I
come in.
used, Jan, I used the cast. I used the cast to convert that date to actually chop off the time because time data wasn't collected. So it would have been all zeros. So it wouldn't have been helpful at all. That's why I used the cast to do that. So
Excellent.
basically, I changed the data type for the purpose of the query, is what I did.
Awesome. Great question, Jan. Ooh, and we had some nice feedback also from Giovanni. Awesome. Oh, so sweet. Well, thank you again, everyone, for joining us today. And if you have any more questions, please don't be afraid to reach out. And we'll see you all very soon, hopefully in the classroom.
All right. Take care, everyone. Thank you very
Bye,
much.
everyone. Bye.